Sinecura. Yes. I'm Lord Cadrian de Flynn, and I'm a wizard. I apologize if I seem a bit surly today, but these guards, these fine upstanding gentlemen of the law, awoke me early, as in the crack of dawn, rushed me down here, having chanced to only grab my second best robe, threw me into the record-keeping office, and demanded that I put forth another Ask the Wizard. It seems that it's been a little long since I've done one, and they thought this was the opportune moment for me to perform my civic duties. I think their timing is terrible. What are the things you appreciate that is missing while you are in wizard jail is the lack of all of the small things you become accustomed to in the free world, such as well-fitting robes, or the cosmetic illusions that we put upon ourselves to appear exactly the way we want all the time. It is for that reason that, if I decide I want to go with my summer look for my facial attire, I can't, with a moment's snap of my fingers, just sport my full beard back again for all of you to see. Nope, I have to grow it back the old-fashioned way, and, well, I don't know, it's still going to be rather warm. I'm kind of torn on it. But, if you have an opinion one way or the other, just let me know. The problem with archmages is that we're often judged by the length and grayness of our beards. The experience written upon our faces is what people pay heed to when seeking our counsel. And there are those who have said that, I look a bit more foolish with the... Well, no reason to go into that. I suppose my lot isn't that bad. It's nothing compared to what our female counterparts must struggle through. Quite honestly, many boorish and foolish individuals believe that a wizardess's attire demonstrates their level of power, and for some reason they have it affixed in their heads that the less that a wizardess wears, the more powerful she is. An apprentice might cover herself with demure robes, whereas an experienced wizardess might wear less and less. It's absolutely revolting, but there are some who embrace this. Both ways, both to accentuate themselves and, well, quite frankly, show off. I won't even go into enchantress fashion. It's almost to a point of scandal at this time. But also how some powerful wizardesses will dress, again, tastefully and demurely, and enjoy that others treat them as less so than their status should normally be accorded. They learn much to their chagrin if she should wish to demonstrate her powers, but it is a foolish system of, well, displaying your credentials. But it's something that I don't know how to get rid of in our society, quite honestly. And realistically, it's foolish. Us, as far as my diviner brethren, can, with but a whispered word and a wave of our fingers, intuit the relative power of anybody that we view. It's a relatively simple spell, and one that comes, almost naturally to us now when we meet someone for the first time to judge, their potentials. And so we dovetail on to this question. I'm told it has something to do with this matter. Thank you, guard. So, today's question for Ask the Wizard is, Dear Lord Cadrian de Flynn. Hey, polite address. I appreciate that. What is your favorite spell? What spells are those that you know that you cannot do without? Signed, Orianna. Interesting. Orianna is not from our world, and she therefore is not knowledgeable of the fact that in this world, asking what spells a wizard knows is a bit like demanding to show your personal identification. A wizard spells are something that are more personal. Now, somebody who is an authority has access to the spells that we have mastered. We must, go through licensing and mastery of all of the spells that we know, and it's a matter technically of public record. But if you just meet a wizard and you are curious, what spells you are in possession of, well, you could ask, but many wizards are rather, they think that's personal. As I said, it's a matter of public record, and I am compelled to answer the question because of, wizard jail. So, I can certainly answer this question. What is my favorite spell? That is quite simple. It's the spell that I can't cast anymore when I'm in here that I miss the most, which is my morning Master Augury. Master Augury is not a spell that is found in every world, but in this one it is the epitome of what it means to be a diviner. It's the reason why we diviners are almost never caught by surprise. If you have elevated yourself to the point where people start tossing your name around in the circles usually reserved for archmages, you probably know the spell. Master Augury allows you, over the course of an hour-long ritual, to absorb and intuit all of the different possibilities that may occur in your day. It is an exhausting spell of sorts, and it requires a completely fresh mind, which is why it's the first thing that I do in the morning. The only break from it is when my servant brings me in my tea and lays it down on the floor near to my door. I am able to, with flick of the tiniest scrap of magic, bring it to my hand so that I can drink it as I cast my augury. I cannot speak to another, I cannot eat properly, I can but drink a sip or two of tea and carry forth. But my attention must be focused totally. And, quite honestly, not every one of them works as well as you wish it would. Even the least successful of my Master Auguries will generally tell me what sort of day I'm going to have. If it's going to be one beset by trials, if it's one where I'm going to be inconvenienced by something like poor weather, or if I'm going to have a chance meeting with someone whose import could be portentous for my future. Am I going to see an old acquaintance, perhaps, that I was not expecting? These are the glimpses and hints of a poorly cast Master Augury, which can be still very useful. If the spell is cast with accuracy and everything goes ideally and you have no distractions, you can see catalogued before you a sort of a itinerary of the possible events of the day. And if you are a Master Augur, you can sort through the possibilities that are dire or unpleasant and avoid them, making sure that your day is a charmed one, that few bad things occur. For instance, if I cast my augury and I see that there is a chain of events which lead to me taking a stroll through the park whereupon I get beset, ambushed, and mugged, my wand stolen, my goods burgled, and the perpetrator causing me untold inconvenience, well, I simply don't go to the park that day. I avoid that possibility, and even if I get the perfect augury where I see the person who would do it, they haven't done it, but I know to be cautious of that one. I get information for a variety of things, but I can only absorb so much, so I will generally try to note patterns that would lead to my possible destruction. I have avoided death a number of times with this spell, or inconvenience, and therefore my day generally tends to go as planned. I can seem to know all by a chance coming up, and I already have foreseen it, so I can be reacting to it even as it occurs. Another reason why diviners seem so omniscient is If you have a good augury and have made the sense to use it, perhaps these events are things that you have seen already, and you are merely using the knowledge that you have gleaned with your magics. Now, that being said, the perfect augury is something I've only cast a number of times. It's a relatively small number of times as well. Mostly the spell gives you hints and leanings, which is why I'm here. Quite honestly, I was a bit hasty casting the spell, and I spilled tea on myself, which caused me to slip my concentration. I was not completely aware that some strands of possibilities existed, wherein some fine gentlemen from the, well, representing the Wizard Council were going to pay me a call while I was in the middle of something particularly incriminating. Yes. It was unfortunate and, frankly, embarrassing for me to be caught. Diviners rarely are. If we are planning on doing something, we can avoid the pitfalls readily with a little application of our magic. But, as I said, my attention was distracted, and I did not pay attention to the full augury, nor did I cast it with the attention to detail as I should have. Even experienced diviners like myself can be foolish in hindsight, which is always perfect of vision, I've been told. But yes, the fault is mine. I should have foreseen it coming, and, well, quite honestly, perhaps officially I have to say I should never have dabbled in necromancy. I should only have stuck to my diviner's leanings and been satisfied with that. But again, I still hold that it would be useful to be able to see through the nether fog. We don't even know what it is, but it is a force that blocks divination around certain undead-held lands, that expands out from their lands and stops us from employing our arts within. If I would been able to have mastered a spell that would have allowed me to divine through that nether fog, I would have... my name would have gone down with some of the greatest of diviners. As it is, wizard jail. But somebody will someday get through that. Well, I won't be here forever. Who knows? Maybe I'll have another bite at the... Officially, I will not do anything else with necromancy once I am out of here, of course. I have learned my lesson, and I should be freed as soon as possible to commence with my responsibilities as a proper diviner to help out all of our society. Nobody here believes me. But at any rate, that is my favorite spell. Now, it is a difficult spell for some worlds that have different rules on their magics. However, almost all of these worlds that I'm familiar with can at least have a spell that allows you to divine the rightness and wrongness of a particular action. Few wizards have the foresight to use these kind of magics, because there are so many more flashy types of magics that are out there and available. What is an augury next to a fireball? Well, a fireball is a burnt-down cottage and a bunch of angry townsfolk, and an augury is knowing you shouldn't have cast the fireball in that instance, isn't it? Now, we diviners are perhaps not the flashiest and have the spells that everybody must instantly respect and or fear, but quite honestly, once you get used to a life spent in relative ease, avoiding the dangers and pitfalls of the world, quite honestly, if we didn't have laws preventing we diviners from handling finance, I'd be one of the richest people in the world. Simply because I would never make a misstep in finances, and I would be investing in things that would always give me a great return. My augury would be, the simplicity itself for that. But it is for that purpose that those masters of wealth they made sure that we couldn't do that. Well, we're taken well care of, don't get me wrong. I have a lovely estate and servants and all the... But, yes, it's granted to me by the state because I'm forbidden from acquiring great personal wealth, because it would be too easy for one such as myself to do. No, I don't dabble on the side or anything of that nature. I've heard the rumors that several of my order do such things, and I assure you that I have never observed anything of the sort. It would take a particular clod of a diviner to be caught doing something immoral with finances, I find. But, yes, where was I? Oh, yes, other spells that I make use of. Well, quite honestly, I am a fond believer of simple little spells that make your everyday simple. I enjoy the variety of very basic magics that I have access to that make my day simpler. Being able to make a cup of tea with a wave of your hand. I know it would surprise some people that wizards really find their most simple spells to be their favorites, but quite honestly, it's what we use more than anything. Yes, if somebody comes to me and asks for an augury about some decision that they are making, and they pay for it, I have a variety of different spells that I can answer various people's questions. If I am going to be directly challenged by another, and sometimes you can't avoid conflict, it's true, it's a facet of being a wizard, we tend to attract trouble. But in that case, well, I don't like to brag or anything, and I really hope the name catches, but Cadrian's Miraculous Respite is a fun spell. Yes, I put my name to it, and my version is a little bit different from the commonly held magical dodge. But basically, it's a spell that gives you momentary glimpses of how the circumstances in your immediate environs are going to be in short bites. And you are able then to make sure that wherever a sword blow is going to come through or a blast of fire is going to launch out, make sure you are not there. It increases your awareness, not your reflexes, mind you. You still have to make do with what you have. But if you know that a danger is coming, you can make extra certain that you are not going to be there. It does tend to diminish your offensive capabilities because you are going to be hypersensitive to the dangers that are around you. The only drawback to the spell is that if somebody is moved up to you and they are determined to slash you and gut you or smash you or whatever, they're going to have a difficult time of it if you have any reflexes to you. You will be able to dodge and deflect the worst of their blows, especially if you are appropriately armed, but eventually they will overwhelm your reflexes and you will find yourself reacting more perhaps than you needed to, and you will tire and they will win. The offense often will win in that case by a matter of time. That's why I don't travel alone. I rarely get in circumstances where I have a mad slasher in front of me, and so on and so forth. And it's especially useful if you come into a situation and you think there might be an element of danger. You cast it upon yourself as a precaution, and the best way of casting it is casting it and then never tripping off any dangers. Then you are completely certain that there was no element of risk in the circumstance. That's something you don't get with magical dodge, which merely blends your awareness and your reflexes together. Yes, I like my version better myself. But it's the everyday spells that, quite honestly, we miss. A simple spell making the perfect cup of tea, or the spell that refreshes your garments. I know, the jailers have staff that do all of that, but it's quite honestly, being able to wave your hand and a freshly laundered set of robes appearing for your consideration, or even, we would get so used to a simple, the butler spell, which allows you to spread your arms and your garments wrap around you and fasten themselves, and all you must do is maintain minute control over your surroundings and your possessions, and be fully kitted out and equipped faster than you can pull things on for yourself. Believe me, I'm aware of that now, that I have no access to that spell. But, and knowing where everything is and everything being in the correct place. That is so useful of a spell, and something that most people don't consider in the life of a wizard. It's all about the fireballs. It's all about, being able to plumb the ether. And sometimes it's just having access to things that make your life easier. Now, truthfully, as the question stated, the spells you can't do without. Obviously, I must do without those spells. And that is an important lesson, I think, that Wizard Jail teaches us, is that we take so much of this magic that we have for granted. Ultimately, if you stripped away the magic, we are people. We live, we breathe, we eat, we do all of the things that a normal person does. Magic may allow us to avoid some unpleasantness in our lives that others would struggle through without magic, but truthfully, could we live without magic entirely? I think so. In fact, I know so. There are worlds that don't have magic, and so, therefore, they must figure out other ways of doing the kind of things that they need. But a life without magic? Ugh, I don't like to think of it. I will say this. I have been offering assistance to a variety of worlds, and I now have a new avenue in which I'm trying to help non-magical worlds to come to understandings if they brush against magic in some way, shape, or form, even if that form is imaginary. I have actually been dabbling in something called a podcast. It's a difficult thing to get the spell to go through the ether with all of the wards, but I can only project my voice, not my image, and I have to find something. It took me a while to find something to anchor myself to, but this podcast is available on a variety of non-magical worlds. It's called An Honest Wizard. And there are several magical spells that can be used to invoke my podcast, such as Spotify, or there's one called Anchor itself. So those of you who dwell outside of magical realms could possibly find me on this Anchor or Spotify. And if the spell works, perhaps we can get some sort of a link below my image to get you into such a position that you could appreciate the spell. I'm currently attempting to translate and assist people with a game that involves dragons and wizards and gold and dungeons and things. And in this particular game, people who do not live in a magical world can pretend to be wizards and warriors and daring rogues and so on in the magical world. I am looking at the magical system at the moment and trying to help people to figure out all the different ways that they can use these magics. This current game is in its 5th edition, and it's got a lot of potential. Although the magic is very bottled up and labeled, I attempt to bring out all of the possibilities for those who are a bit more forward-thinking on how to use some of these magics, and also to warn about the perils and pitfalls of using these magics foolishly, as there are some of those. So, if you can't get enough of Ask the Wizard, I humbly advise you to check me out on An Honest Wizard, available on various podcasting. I believe these spells are called apps. People have strange names for things in other worlds, but I trust that I've answered this question sufficiently, Mistress Orianna. As far as the next time you see me, who knows? Perhaps you can hasten the issue by leaving me a question, and I will respond to it as I am compelled to. Hopefully at a better time next time, right? Hopefully. But I am Lord Cadrian de Flynn, and I am thankful for you to have come to this place and enjoyed my my company and my, well, in my state, bearing my very soul to you. And I look forward to the next time when I can continue to pay my price to society. Until the next time, farewell, and may the gods of magic smile upon you, making your lives mystical and wondrous.